In this tutorial, we're going to continue our conversation on Python statements by discussing multi-line comments and how you can express yourself across multiple lines. Hey, it's Chris with A to C Python Academy with more tips and tutorials to help you be the budding Python developer we both know you can be. Thanks for being here, and if you haven't already, tap that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss a new tutorial. So in our previous video, we spoke about the Python sep print parameter and how it was used to assist in formatting your print statements. We also talked about the new line character and how it's used to create and handle line breaks, new lines, or line feeds. If you have not seen that video or would like to revisit that video, I've posted links in the description below, or for your convenience, you can click on the link in the top right of the screen for that video. Also, if you want to watch a specific section of this video, I have included timecodes in the description below. That way you can watch exactly what you need to know. In today's class, we're going to continue our discussion on Python statements by covering multi-line statements and how they function. We'll also discuss the three categories of multi-line statements and what character combinations are represented in each category. In addition, we'll cover 4 points of multi-line statements, which are basic rules to how they operate. And finally, we will conclude with coding examples to bring your understanding all together. Let's get started. What are multi-line statements? Let's understand that Python statements are normally written in a single line. But if the statement is very long, we can divide the code into multiple lines with the line continuation character, aka the backward slash. Now, we said something very similar to this in our last video when we talked about the new line print option. If you have not seen that video or would like to revisit that video, for your convenience, you can click in the link in the top right of the screen. What scenario would we use Python multi-line statements? Well, let's say you have several one-line statements that are extremely long. As expected, this could make code difficult to read for others reviewing your code. So you want to make those long statements more pleasing to the eyes by spreading them out into multiple lines. And this is where multi-line statements come into play. Now let's talk about the characters used to create multi-line statements. Multi-line characters can be separated into 3 categories. Category 1 are characters that have their own special jobs within the Python language, but also help out with multi-line statements. They also can stand on their own without the use of the line continuation character. These characters in multi-line statements are also known as automatic characters. Category 2 is very similar to Category 1, with the exception that these characters can only be used with the line continuation character in multi-line statements. And Category 3 are characters that have a full-time job of only representing multi-line statements. So let's talk about the characters that are involved in each category. In Category 1, you have the parentheses, braces, square brackets, triple single quotes, and triple double quotes. In Category 2, you have single quotes and double quotes. And in Category 3, you have the semicolon and the line continuation character, also called the line break backslash or explicit line continuation. So let's dive deeper into these character roles and their uses. In Category 1, the parentheses are useful in creating expressions, tuples, and strings. The braces are used by dictionary objects. The square brackets are used to create lists. Triple single quotes and triple double quotes are used in literal strings. In Category 2, both the single quotes and double quotes are also used in literal strings. And in Category 3, you have the semicolon, which is used to create compound statements, while the line continuation character is the star of the show and is what is usually referred to when standard line continuation is needed. Now, when we talk about line continuation in reference to multi-line statements, there are 4 points we need to understand. I like to call these the 4 points of multi-line statements. Point 1. Line continuation is considered automatic when the split comes while a statement is inside the parentheses, brackets, braces, triple single quotes, or triple double quotes, like we discussed in Category 1. Now understand that due diligence must be done with this automatic feature, mostly because it can lead to errors if the closing parentheses, brackets, braces, or quotes are forgotten. But we'll see more of that in our code examples later. Point 2. Between the single quotes, double quotes, triple single quotes, and triple double quotes, only the triple single and the triple double quotes will automatically continue across the end of a line in multi-line statements. This is because the triple single and triple double quotes are considered automatic characters. And because of this, you don't need a standard line continuation character at the end of each line. But if you attempt to use single quotes or double quotes without a standard line continuation character at the end of the line, you will get an error in Python because the statement will be split by using enter instead of the standard line continuation character. Point 3. According to the PEP8 or PEP8 style guide for the Python code, it recommends you limit all lines to a maximum of 79 characters. For flowing long blocks of text with fewer structural restrictions, the line length should be limited to 72 characters. However, know when to be inconsistent. Sometimes style guide recommendations just aren't applicable. When in doubt, use your best judgment, look at other examples, and decide what looks best. And don't hesitate to ask. With this guidance, your Python project will read, review, and upgrade at a much cleaner rate. So if you think about it, this rule helps define the use and purpose of multi-line statements. Point 4. This point is not required, but for the sake of readability, when you have a multi-line statement, you should indent 4 spaces on every line below line 1. Again, this is not a Python multi-line statement rule, but it will definitely help make your multi-line statements more visually appealing. Now let's step away from the lecture portion of this video and put some of this newfound knowledge to work. So let's talk about the line continuation character. In the first example on the screen, I have a basic one-line statement in Python. We have the variable tot_1_line, and it equals a series of integers that we're trying to add together. And the second line will print the total of these integers. Note the end result of this code is to show you that this is what a long line of Python code looks like prior to us making it a multi-line statement. While in the second example, we've taken the exact same code from example 1, but we've broken it down into multiple lines to make it more readable using the multi-line statement method. So what we have is tot multi followed by the integers that we're adding. At the end of each line where we want to continue to the next line, we have the standard line continuation character. And as you can see, 1, 2, 3 plus backslash carries the line to the next line, and it does the same thing on the second line. When we get to the end of the third line, we do not have a standard line continuation character because that is the end of the statement. Note that when we print these statements, they print the same thing. Another thing to note is that we don't have any characters surrounding the values of this variable, tot multi. This is similar to point 2 in our lecture, where we discussed if you have a variable with a statement that has no multi-line automatic characters surrounding it, you must use the standard line continuation character to create a multi-line statement. Now this is a simple print statement where it prints out "Welcome to A to C Python Academy." This example covers point 2 in our lecture, where because the double quotes are not multi-line automatic characters, we have to use the standard line continuation character to create the multi-line statement. Because of this, we have to put a line continuation character at the end of each line to tell it to continue to the next line. And when we print this, it's as if it were one single line. Welcome to A to C Python Academy. The next set of examples are an extension of point 1 and 2 of our lecture, where we cover the rules for category 1 multiline statements. We have a variable a, which equals a series of integers that we are calculating together, which will end with us printing a. But notice that we don't have a standard line continuation character at the end of each one of these lines. And that's because we're using parentheses, which are considered a multi-line automatic character. So there is no need for a standard line continuation character here. And when we print this out, it prints the total of the multi-line statement as if it were one single line. So in our next example here, we're using square brackets, which are used in lists, and is also considered a multi-line automatic character. We have a variable hiker-boots, which equals the list of hiker-boot brands. And so this prints out just like it would if you were to put the list in one single line. Now, if we were to change the square brackets to braces so that they represent dictionaries, the result would be the same, but enclosed in a dictionary. Our next example, we're going to discuss the triple double quotes and the triple single quotes. Both are considered automatic line continuation characters. We have the variable test equals and the strings A to C test 1, A to C test 2, and A to C test 3 enclosed in triple double quotes. Notice that we are not using the standard line continuation character at the end of each line to tell it to go to the next line because of the triple double quotes. This would also be the same result if we exchanged the triple double quotes for triple single quotes, like in our second example. And when we run this code, the result is the same. In these next two examples, we'll be elaborating on point 2 of our lecture, where we cover the rules for category 2 multiline statements. On the screen, we have two different versions of your single quote and your double quote multiline statements. In the first example, we have a variable long that equals the string. This is a very long string too, for sure. At the beginning and the end of each line for the statement, you see double quotes. This is because double quotes are not considered automatic line continuation characters, which means you'll need to have it at the beginning and the end of each line in order to go to the next line. In the second example, we have single quotes at the beginning of the statement and the end of the statement. The difference here is that we're using a standard line continuation character at the end of each line to tell it to go to the next line. And when we execute each of these lines, we get the exact same thing on each line. Now, in the same breath, if I were to go to the first example and format the double quotes to only be at the beginning and the end of the string, and add a standard line continuation character to the end of the first and the second lines of the string, the result will be the same when printed. Also, if I went to the second example and removed the standard line continuation characters at the end of the first and second line and added single quotes to the beginning and end of each line in the multi-line statement, the result would also be the same. Now let's talk about category 3, where we talk more about the semicolon and how it's unique within the multiline statement scenario. So on the screen, we have three simple print statements. We have print A, print B, and print C. And when we print this, that's exactly what we get. So I'm going to turn these three print statements into a compound statement by simply putting a semicolon in between each print statement and putting it on one line. Now when we print this, we get the exact same thing as we did when we had each print statement on an individual line. The only difference is that we've taken those print statements and put them all on one line using the semicolon character. As we talked about in point 4 of our lecture, like everything else in Python, being aesthetically pleasing to the eyes is an important skill when working with multi-line statements. Remember, when you want to make your multi-line statement more clear, you should indent 4 spaces for every line below line 1. So let's look at this next example. We have a statement that says A equals 1 plus 2 plus 3 minus 4. We have the standard line continuation character after each line because there are no automatic characters used in this statement. And when we run this, the answer is 2. The problem is, in reference to point 4, we should format this in the correct manner. So for every line in the multi-line statement below line 1, we're going to indent 4 spaces. And when we run this again, the result is the same. Now you can actually do the complete opposite and it will work just the same. So we have a variable b which equals 1 plus 2 plus 3. The difference in this example from our initial example is the string is not neatly formatted but scrambled all over each line. This is a little bit more difficult to read than the formatted version, but the proper use of the standard line continuation character creates the same result. And finally, we end our coding session with some of the standard errors and mistakes that a lot of newbies, hobbyists, and even professionals make in working with Python multi-line statements. So we have a list called hiker boots. When we print this, it errors out and says, line 6, print hiker boots, syntax error, invalid syntax. So when we look at line 6, it looks fine. So let's look at line 5. As I stated earlier, this is a list, and a list starts with a square bracket and should end with a square bracket. As you see here, there is a square bracket missing at the end of the statement. And when we add that bracket and rerun this, the problem is solved. In our next example here, we have a variable b that equals 1 plus 2 plus 3, but it's all jumbled out and separated. So when we print this, it says line 1, b equals 1 plus, and there is something missing here that it's expecting. Syntax error, invalid syntax. So we come back up to line 1, and we notice that there is no standard line continuation character at the end of the b equals 1 plus line. Because we don't have any automatic line continuation characters in this statement, we need to place a standard line continuation character at the end of each line. So it knows to continue to the next line with the statement. And when we run this again, as you can see, the error is gone and the answer is 6. In our next example, we have a variable called text that equals a string literal. When we run this, we get an error that says line 5, syntax error, EOF while scanning triple quoted string literal. For reference purposes, EOF stands for end of file. Since there is no line 5, we look at line 4. Now in the beginning of the string, we're starting with an automatic line continuation character of triple double quotes. So we should also end the statement with triple double quotes. So when we look at the end of the multi-line statement, we see that it's missing the ending triple double quotes. We put that in and rerun it. No more errors. So our final multi-line statement error example is very similar to the last example that we just had here. The difference is we have it surrounded by single quotes in the beginning and the end of the string. And when we run this, we get an error, syntax error, EOL while scanning string literal. And for information purposes, the EOL stands for end of line. So it's expecting something at the end of the first line. So since we know that single quotes are not automatic line continuation characters, we have to make sure that we put a standard line continuation character at the end of each line in the string literal. And as you can see, it's missing at the end of the first 3 lines. Once we correct that, and rerun the code, the error is resolved. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you found value in it. And if you want more free of charge Python tips, tricks, and tutorials, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in next week's class.